while staying in the market, how can you multiply your money? कई movies में सुने हैं, Hollywood Bollywood movie में बोलते हैं कि पैसा सब कुछ नहीं होता. We keep ahead of the inflation so that we can create wealth for ourselves. बट सामने सामने जो वही बैंक में हमने ये फिक्स डिपॉजिट या सेविंग्स डिपॉजिट ओपन कर रहे हैं, वो वैसा ही प्राइवेट बैंक के स्टॉक्स में अगर इन्वेस्ट करें, यू कैन हैव दैट डिसिप्लिन to invest in real estate and hold on for let's say 10-20 years. Try to do the same in equity. Smart SIP में ये होता है कि जब भी मार्केट की वैल्यूएशन समझ लो कि अट्रैक्टिव हो जाए, तो आपकी SIP की वैल्यू बढ़ा देती है. Everything comes down to asset allocation, like we talked about. If it is, be it a real estate.
Hello everyone. Today I'd like to welcome you all for an interesting session with Mr. Mandap Pawar from Kotak Mahindra AMC. Mr. Pawar has done his MMS in finance from Mumbai University and has 18 years of industry experience. He has been with Kotak AMC for over 15 years. Currently, he is working as Senior Vice President in Equity Fund Management Department. He has covered oil and gas, metals, logistics, retail, and telecom sectors. Mr. Pawar, I'd like to welcome you for this session. Today, we'll be discussing an interesting topic, making money with joy. In this, Mr. Pawar will be covering the basics of investing, answering questions, where to invest, how to invest. He'll be discussing key strategies in investing in equities. And above all, he'll explain how to make this roller coaster ride of investing very joyous for all our investors and help our investors create wealth for themselves. Without wasting much time, I'd like to hand over the stage to Mr. Pawar. Mr. Pawar, you can please take it ahead from here.
All right. Thank you, Rohan, and thank you to the entire team who has joined on the call. So, like Rohan mentioned, we'll talk on a topic which is broadly, talking about while staying in the market. How can you multiply your money? And the idea is to have you enjoy that ride. Because as we always say, it's a roller coaster ride in stock market. And how do we enjoy this roller coaster ride when we multiply this money, right? So that is how this topic is structured. And that's what we thought we'll present, few. So it is nothing but a summary of experiences that we personally would have gone through, or some market expert, or so many books which talk about this, some theories which talk about this. To summarize it in a small PPT form, so that the investors like you can have that same joy while multiplying the money in the market.
Right, sir.
Yeah. So I'll just share a PPT. Give me 1 second. When we are all in the stock market here right now, definitely, we are in the field of managing money, right? But at the same time, we keep hearing these principles like, money is not everything in life, money doesn't matter. ये हमने कई movies में सुने हैं, Hollywood Bollywood movie में बोलते हैं कि पैसा सब कुछ नहीं होता. Many pundits also say, जो life के बारे में कुछ ना कुछ ज्ञान देते हैं, तो बोलते हैं money is not everything. So it's correct, no doubt about it. But it is an ideal thing to think over. It is not always a practical thing. So it is more idealistic than practical. Let me put it this way. So, and I think Warren Buffett has argued against this in a very smart manner. So he said, yes, money is not everything in life, but make sure that you make enough money before making such statement. Right? So, ये बात है ना कि आप जब ये comfortable position में हो financially, तब जाके आप ये statement कर लेते हैं. That is what Warren Buffett has argued for. And there is another statement which goes in the market: making money is tough, but growing money is even tougher. Okay, so so basically we are thinking, how do we multiply that 1 rupee that we have? 1 rupee का 2 rupee कैसे हो सकता है? 2 rupee का 5 rupees कैसे हो सकते हैं? Right? So that is what this idea is, because we may have a certain flow of income. there will be certain savings that we may be having, but how do we grow on this? Because and it is necessary to grow on this, क्योंकि एक बात तो होती है कि जैसे हमने देखा है कि इन्फ्लेशन इज समथिंग विच takes away the purchasing power of money, right? And the longer period, this inflation will eat into the savings that we have. So how do we beat that inflation, and how do we keep ahead of the inflation so that we can create wealth for ourselves? Right. तो एक क्वेश्चन आता है कि ये जो इन्वेस्टमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटीज है, तो ये इंडिया में इन्वेस्ट करे या इंडिया के बाहर ज्यादा अपॉर्चुनिटीज है? तो आप अगर ये देखें कि इंडिया में, विच इज इन अ ग्रोइंग इकोनॉमी, वी हैव सीन many examples, and one of the examples is here. If you look at the stock market, Walmart, over the longer period, it is 7 times bigger than HDFC Limited. Okay, so we have taken one large cap company in the US, one large cap company in India. अगर हम कंपैरिजन करें तो वॉलमार्ट कहीं ज्यादा बड़ा है एचडीएफसी, लेकिन हम रिटर्न्स की बात करें कि हु हैज ग्रोन फास्टर, then we have seen that HDFC has delivered 10 times more return than Walmart. Okay, so the thing is that even though we are smaller in size, but we are growing faster, and hence we are creating more wealth for those who are in this journey. All right. ये एक एग्जांपल अगर हम इंडस्ट्री वाइज देखें, ये तो एक स्टॉक वर्सेस अनदर स्टॉक कंपेयर किया था, पर हम अगर इंडस्ट्री वाइज भी कंपेयर करें, राइट, तो सॉफ्टवेयर इंडस्ट्री के एग्जांपल में टीसीएस has delivered something like 639% returns on investment from 2007 to 2022, that is in 15 years. Against that, Oracle would have given a return of about 237%. IBM would have given a 70% return in that same time period. Okay. Now this is a time frame taken from 2007 to September 2022. Or let me give a disclosure that many of the data points that you'll see here is as on September 30. Now the if we have to take it on March 23, few data points will change, but the broader message remains the same. Okay, so the broader message will still continue to be the same. As we talked about the software industry, even the automobile industry, if we look at Maruti, has given much superior returns as compared to the other global auto majors like Honda and Toyota. Similarly, for FMCG, if we look at the parent company, Procter and Gamble in the US has delivered a return which is far lesser than what Procter and Gamble Indian subsidiary has delivered. So we have seen India as a opportunity which is much attractive compared to the other markets. Then if we certain questions that the investors have, and the flow, the presentation going ahead will have certain questions which the investors normally ask. So it is like an FAQ for how to invest in market. तो जैसे हम एक क्वेश्चन हमेशा आते कि हम क्या सेविंग्स रखे रखे या उसको इन्वेस्ट करें, तो डेट में इन्वेस्ट करें या फिर इक्विटी में इन्वेस्ट करें, राइट? तो इसका आंसर एक है कि अगर आपको वेल्थ बिल्ड करना है, ओके, देन यू हैव टू लुक एट इन्वेस्टिंग एज एन ऑप्शन, राइट? जैसे हम लेफ्ट में हम चार्ट देख रहे हैं, सेविंग्स एक जो हमारी इनकम होगी उसमें से हम एक्सपेंसेस निकालेंगे और जो पैसा बचता है उसको एक्यूमुलेट करते जाए, so you will reach a certain increase in your net worth. But to reach a sharper increase, which we want to create as a wealth, and why to create a wealth, I told you, we talk about future expenses that we have to meet. It's not just the inflation के हमारे रोजमर्रा की जो खर्चे होते हैं सिर्फ वही नहीं, but as your life cycle progresses, there are certain expenses which will increase. For example, the kids education, and then medical expenses, the retirement expenses, all those expenses will come in future, and whether one is prepared for that you need investing, and for that equity market has to be looked upon. The net worth will only be created through investments. Okay, you may have savings, but the net worth will be created through investment. Now, this is one slide which is presented by Mr. Brian Feroldi, uh, and this slide gives a very powerful message. Okay, so we typically say if we look at the risk profile, cash is the lowest risk, and then the debt market increases the risk by one notch, but then the stock market, equity markets is a higher risk. Uh, which is true. So if we look at the short term, stocks will have higher risk as compared to the debt markets or the bonds, which is higher risk as compared to cash. But if we have to extrapolate that over a longer period of time, तो ये क्या होता है कि मतलब हम अगर कैश पे बैठे रहे, so the question of whether we can use this cash for our expenses and the purchasing power of cash will go down, and hence the risk increases over the long term. Over a longer period stock market, your risk starts to taper off. Okay, so there are many uncertain events, there are business cycles, there are changes in the geopolitical scenario. All those are taken care of over a longer period of time. Over a longer period of time, your equity markets will deliver some positive return, and therefore even if you face volatility in these periods, you will still end up earning a higher income from where one is today, and therefore the risks are all covered over a longer period. So that is a powerful message that the previous slide tells you, that the stocks risk will taper off over a longer period. And of course, how one multiplies the money, the return that equity market will deliver will be far better than the savings or the fixed deposit. So for example, again in this 15 years, a saving deposit will probably give you just 80% increase for every 1 rupee invested. Fixed deposits at a higher interest rate will make your 1 rupee into 2.76 rupees. बट सामने सामने जो वही बैंक में हमने ये फिक्स डिपॉजिट या सेविंग्स डिपॉजिट ओपन कर रहे हैं, तो वैसा ही प्राइवेट बैंक के स्टॉक्स में अगर इन्वेस्ट करें, ओके, तो हमारा रिटर्न 1 रुपए के 5-7 रुपए के ऊपर चली गई. सो यू कैन क्रिएट वेल्थ आउट ऑफ इक्विटी मार्केट्स which may not be possible by keeping it on safe deposits or fixed deposits. And an example of this is Mr. Uday Kotak also, when he started uh, his venture of bill discounting, which eventually then turned into Bank Kotak Mahindra Bank. He had taken money from few of his friend, a few lakh rupees that he had taken. Today, those few lakh rupees for each of them has turned to about 1100 crores. Okay, so that is
Crores.
how the wealth creation that is possible in equity markets, and this is one example from the financial market which has allowed it to do so. Now, some investors will ask as to how do we participate in the market? Should we trade?
Correct.
Should we invest? Sometimes many investors may not know the difference between a trade or invest. Okay, and it is very necessary to understand that what is the objective that one is entering with, whether to trade or whether to invest. ओके, इन ट्रेडिंग द सिंपल पार्ट इज द वे टू एक्सप्लेन क्या करना होता है ट्रेडिंग में. आपको नीचे में खरीदना होता है, ऊपर में बाय करना होता है, और फिर बाद में मार्केट नीचे आ जाए तो वापस खरीद लो, ऊपर आ जाए वापस बेच दो. सो दैट इज द सिंपल थियोरी ऑफ ट्रेडिंग. ओके, बट रियलिटी क्या होती है? रियलिटी में मार्केट एक जैसे हमने सोचा है उस तरीके से नहीं चलती. कभी इट विल बी मूविंग विद लॉट ऑफ वॉलेटिलिटी. रियलिटी में ऐसा हो गया कि किसी ने मार्केट खरीद लिया, ऊपर के भाव में मार्केट में एंट्री की, भाव नीचे जाते हैं तो जैसे कई एक्सपर्ट बोलते हैं कि मार्केट करेक्शन में आप थोड़ा सा बाय कर लीजिए. तो अब बाय कर लिया, देखते हैं कि स्टॉक का भाव वापस ऊपर गया, तो लगता है कि हमने सही डिसीजन लिया. लेकिन थोड़ी देर बाद वापस मार्केट नीचे जाना चालू करता है, एंड फिर ये हम तो इन्वेस्टर्स को कई बार लॉसेस सफर करते हैं. नीचे में लगता है कि यार ये तो बेच दिया होता तो ही बेटर था, तो शायद हम इन्वेस्टर शॉर्ट करना चालू कर देते हैं मार्केट में, मार्केट टर्न हो जाती है. तो ये सब ट्रेडिंग में रियलिटी है. ये हमने पिछले कुछ सालों में देखे कि ट्रेडिंग एक्टिविटी हैज इंक्रीज बाय न्यू कमर्स इन द मार्केट. Okay, I don't want to use the word retail because retail will be smart, but just one has to distinguish between who is a seasoned retail investor versus a newcomer. Okay, for a newcomer,
Newcomer.
it is always dangerous to trade. Okay, there is one example of certain, which is there on this slide, but there are many other examples that you can read about. You may have read about in the paper or heard about from somebody. See, there is a simple point of high low difference. Let's say in HDFC, as an एग्जांपल अगेन, अगर आप देखें कि जो स्टॉक में अगर हमने ट्रेडिंग की होती है यही स्टॉक में 91 से लेके 2002 तक, each year it has presented opportunity to trade. ओके, कि हाई और लो के बीच का डिफरेंस 91 में 70% था. ओके, या फिर हम लेट्स से 2003 में ऑलमोस्ट 100% का डिफरेंस था, 2008 में ऑलमोस्ट 60% का डिफरेंस था बिटवीन हाई एंड लो, विच मीन्स आपके पास ट्रेडिंग के लिए अपॉर्चुनिटीज थी. बट अगर ये ट्रेडिंग नहीं की होती एंड आप सिर्फ
Yes.
बाय एंड होल्ड स्ट्रेटेजी यूज की होती, तो भी आपका 43% कैगर रिटर्न इसमें छूटता था. ओके, सो पॉइंट इज कि विद अ लोअर रिस्क, बिकॉज ये ट्रेडिंग अपॉर्चुनिटीज आप हर अपॉर्चुनिटी कैप्चर नहीं कर पाएंगे. And when I'm saying you cannot capture, I mean anybody, even in somebody who has spent years in the market will not get all these trading opportunities right. There will be certain losses which will happen. So against the trading as an option, if one looks at investing, which is will be at much lesser risk but with a stable kind of a return. Alright. So it's better to buy and hold. Okay, so we have talked about HDFC's as an example. Okay, so the ideal situation will be to be an investor rather than a trader.
Nothing.
Particularly if one is new in the market, one should definitely look at investing and not look at trading if one is new in the market. Get into that game of trading only when you are well versed with the volatility in the market. आपने कई साइकिल्स देखे हैं, आपने देखे हैं हर कौन सी इवेंट मार्केट में क्या इम्पैक्ट करती है, उसका कितना टाइम तक उसका इम्पैक्ट रहता है, कभी उसका रिवर्सल होता है. तो ये सब आप सालों के साइकिल से स्टडी करते हैं, तब जाके आप एक ट्रेडर, अच्छे ट्रेडर बन सकते हैं. लेकिन तब तक आप इन्वेस्टर बने रहें rather than a trader. Okay? Uh, Now, why investment? What are the opportunities available? Okay, कि हम क्या कर सकते थे? देखिए, एक ऐसे कुछ एग्जाम्पल्स हैं. जैसे अगर अ, हम अगर सितंबर 2007 में मारुति डिजायर का भाव था कुछ 5 लाख रुपया. अगर वो 5 लाख में गाड़ी खरीदने के बजाय मारुति के शेयर्स लिए होते,
Yes.
ओके, तो उसकी वैल्यू करीबन 40 लाख के ऊपर चली जाती, जिसमें समझ लो वो टाइम पे आपके पास एक ऑडी खरीदने की भी एक कॉर्पस क्रिएट हो जाती, क्योंकि ये करीबन 9 गुना स्टॉक का भाव बढ़ गया था मारुति का. दूसरा कुछ एग्जाम्पल है टू व्हीलर में भी, कि जैसे रॉयल एनफील्ड, दैट इज आइशर मोटर्स के, अगर 1 लाख बाइक खरीदने की जगह अगर इसे आइशर मोटर्स के स्टॉक में इन्वेस्ट किया होता, तो ये 1 लाख के करीबन 97 लाख रुपए हुए होते. ऐसा ही दूसरे एग्जाम्पल्स आपके पास रहे, जैसे कि एशियन पेंट्स है, कि अगर जो जो कॉर्पस में आपका घर की पेंटिंग होती थी 2 लाख, अगर उसके सामने शेयर्स खरीद दिए होते, तो उसकी कीमत 2 लाख की कीमत हुए होती करीबन 4 करोड़. ओके, 15 सालों में. अभी ये एग्जाम्पल्स ये नहीं बता रहा हूँ कि आप गाड़ी नहीं खरीदे, आप तो सिर्फ शेयर्स खरीदे, आप घर पेंट ना करें, सिर्फ आप उनके स्टॉक्स ले, ऐसे नहीं कह रहे. The reason why we presented those last 2 3 slides is to tell you an example of the opportunities that lie in the
Opportunity.
market. Okay, and at any point of time one needs to make a prudent decision as to whether one needs to spend or one needs to invest, as to that is the evaluation one should be looking at. Okay, so don't be completely blind and go about spending. Look whether there is an opportunity to invest also. Okay. Uh, Now, one common feedback that we come across from the investors who have probably spent time in the market, or probably early years in the market, is that equity is quite risky, which is correct. We'll agree to that, and we'll also add that it's not just risky, but it is also complicated. uh, how do one, जैसे हमने कहा कि कभी एक अपॉर्चुनिटी हुई, करेक्शन हुई, खरीद लो स्टॉक्स, लेकिन कौन से स्टॉक्स? ओके, आपको वो अभी आइडेंटिफाई करना जरूरी है, क्योंकि एग्जांपल्स आपको ऐसे भी दिखेंगे जो करेक्शन के बाद स्टॉक ऊपर हुए हैं। दूसरे साइड पे आपको एग्जांपल ऐसे भी दिखेंगे जहां पे करेक्शन के बाद और नीचे गिरे हैं। तो आपको तो वो कौन से स्टॉक्स आपको खरीदने होते हैं, कौन से नहीं खरीदने होते हैं ऑन करेक्शन, इज उसके पीछे का आपका एक रीजन देखना होगा कि आप एक डैमेज स्टॉक खरीदते हैं, ना कि डैमेज कंपनी। ओके, इस दोनों में अंतर समझिए। सो फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ देयर इज अ सर्टेन कंपनी whose stocks have fallen, but the company is still doing well, those are the stocks that one can look at buying on correction. But if the company is not doing well, if the longer term growth trajectory is coming off, avoid such kind of companies, because then those become value traps, right? So when you are buying stocks, look at the business of that underlying, how that underlying company is doing well, right? Now, if you look at a longer period, be it 5 year horizon, 10 year horizon, 20 year horizon, 50 year horizon, there will be multiple events which will come, which will have an impact on the market. शॉर्टर टर्म में बात करें तो मनसून होते हैं, इंटरेस्ट मनसून अच्छी जाए बुरी जाए, इंटरेस्ट रेट्स की मूवमेंट होती है, यूएस पे रेट के एक्शंस होते हैं। वी हैव सीन ओवर अ लॉन्गर पीरियड सम इवेंट्स लाइक टेररिस्ट अटैक, डीमोनेटाइजेशन जैसे वन ऑफ इवेंट्स हुए, कोविड जैसा वन ऑफ इवेंट हुआ, देयर आर ट्रेड वॉर्स व्हिच कीप हैपनिंग once 10-20 years. So all these things over a longer period have played out where stocks had, the market had a positive impact as well as negative impact out of
Negative
this,
impact.
and we have seen over a longer period the market has still delivered positive return. So
Positive.
finally, why this happens is, stocks are slaves of earnings. What do we mean by that? The stock market is a composition of all the market values of all the stocks listed on the stock exchange, right? The value of these stocks or the companies is determined by how much profit do they make, okay, which is basically the earnings. So finally, जो market cap create होती है किसी country की, किसी market की, is the outcome of what is the market cap of each companies, and market cap of each companies is determined by what kind of profit that they can do. So those are finally how the stock market will be moving in a direction. So despite all these events, one has to see as to how the earnings movement of the company is. Then there will be certain examples where investors will come back and ask us, अगर longer term में पैसे बनते हैं, then why am I losing money? Why did I have a bad experience in the market? Okay, so the point will be probably a very very unlucky, or your timing has been wrong, and more often the timing goes wrong because
Wrong.
the temptation to enter into the market comes at a high level, all right? But
Yes.
because if one looks at the examples over 20 years, 30 years,
Yes.
40 years, the market has grown substantially. This is the chart for Sensex. We have seen it grow by 18 times in last 20 years, 16 times in last 30 years. But where one loses on the opportunity is one has to not just look at the Sensex levels, but one also has to look at the valuation levels. All right. A very good parameter to judge is where is the price to book value of the Sensex or a Nifty or a stock. Okay. So the perfect time is when there to lose money. More often where person will lose money is when they get on a very high valuation on price to book. So that is one where one needs to be little careful about as to where the market valuation is, and not just the market value or the index level. All right. So that's something that is one has to take into consideration. Uh, then somebody would say that okay, ठीक है ये कभी कभी मेरा पैसे बन जाते हैं, बट कभी कभी निगेटिव रिटर्न्स भी आते हैं, और ये सब निगेटिव रिटर्न्स आती है तो इससे मुझे काफी तकलीफ होती है। ऑलराइट, इसके लिए एक पॉइंट ये है कि आप एक कंपनी को अगर आप टाइम देते हैं, स्टॉक को टाइम देते हैं, तो आपके फिर भी अच्छी खासी रिटर्न बन जाती है। इफ यू हैव आइडेंटिफाइड, इफ यू हैव डन योर स्टडी राइट, एंड इफ यू हैव आइडेंटिफाइड अ गुड कंपनी which can compound their profits for many years, you will make money over a long term despite the despite the multiple corrections that you will face on the way. Now this is a chart for Infosys. Okay, over a longer period it has done 34% CAGR return for the investor, for the investors. But while delivering this 34% CAGR return, there was instance where the stock fell 74%, which was during the IT bubble burst. There was this time when the stock fell 50% during the global financial crisis. After that, there were another instances where the stock had fallen by one third. Okay, there are other instances where the stock has fallen 20-25%, right? So there have been multiple instances where Infosys has given very sharp fall. But if one looks on a longer frame, the stock has recovered from those corrections and delivered return for the investor. So this is the bigger picture if one looks at it. अगर हम डेज में काउंट करें तो देखते हैं कि देयर विल बी सर्टेन अप डेज, सर्टेन डाउन डेज इन द मार्केट. ओके, अगर हम टाइम होराइजन उसको बढ़ा दे, and if you start looking at multi years in the market, we'll see that there will be more up positive return markets rather than negative return market. If we
Negative returns.
time horizon more, look at on decades, we have seen the market delivering positive return more often, and rarely there will be a negative return period. All right. So अगर करेक्शन होता है तो क्या करना चाहिए? So what we suggest is look at correction as an opportunity. Okay,
Mm.
there has been let's say an instance where if the stock falls by let's say 90% correction.
Mm.
ओके, अगर 100 रुपए का 10 होता है, बट इफ यू आर कन्विंस्ड that the company is doing quite well, it is a company which will not shut down and it can recover, and this confidence will only come when you do the analysis of the company right. And if that analysis gives you that confidence, then you have a multi year uh, multi opportunities of your returns growing by 100%, right? So अगर अगर 100 रुपए का स्टॉक 10 हो गया, 10 का वापस 100 जाते वक्त ये आपका 900%. सो ये मैथमेटिकली आपको बता देगा कि आपका रिटर्न में पॉजिटिव अगर आप कैप्चर कर लेते हो, देन यू कैन क्रिएट अ वेरी शार्पर रिटर्न इन द मार्केट. The other question that investors often ask, why only equity, why not real estate or gold? Okay. So there is one example which famously given by Mr. Rakesh Junjunwala. He said कि मैंने 2005 में क्रिसिल के शेयर्स बेचे थे. I sold it for 27 crores and brought a property. The property is now worth 50 crores. But the same shares of Crisil are now at 700 crores. Okay, so that was one example that he had given. See, but investing in real estate is not a bad idea. In fact, what we talk about, and in coming slides, I'll tell you the importance of asset allocation. And when we talk about asset allocation, you should be, distribute your investments across asset classes like real estate, along with equities and some part of debt, some part probably in gold. Now, just consider about investing in real estate. How does one invest in real estate? If one buys a property now, does anyone go and sell in the next month? No, very rarely, very, very rarely, right? Does one buy property now and sell in 1 year? Very rarely, right?
Very
One
rare.
ideally buy the property, hold it for years, and then probably say, look to book the property if it is meant only from the investment point of view. So why not apply the same discipline in equities? Why not look at investing into the equity market for a longer period with the same kind of discipline, right? And if you do that in equities, you will create wealth there also. So that is something which one needs to keep in mind, that if you can have that discipline to invest in real estate and hold on for, let's say, 10, 20 years, try to do the same in equities, and you can make good returns on equity market also. All right. The advantage that equity gives you is the liquidity, which will not be there in real estate, and therefore equity is better in real estate as compared to real estate because of the liquidity aspect. Gold is also quite liquid, but the return that the equity markets has delivered over a longer period of time has been much better than what gold has delivered. Okay, so the upper line is basically the return from Sensex, the lower line is the return from gold. So it tells you how much has been the difference in the return. So making money means what? So ideally avoid trading, do your adequate research and due diligence. Look for some expert opinions. If one cannot give an entire time for doing their own analysis, do make use of experts who, like a financial advisor or mutual fund houses. You can make use of these kind of experts. यूज when one uses leverage कि हम borrow करके अगर equity में डाल रहे हैं तो be sure that you are very disciplined on that. Don't over leverage and take a risk, financial risk, which is within limits. Allow long term period for your investment so that you, like we talked in the initial slide, over a longer period the risk on equity will come off. The mantras to make money on asset class remain the same, right? So ये एक एवरेजिंग की एग्जांपल हो गई कि हम जहां पे हर लेवल पे अगर आपने थोड़ा थोड़ा स्प्रेड आउट कर चुके हैं तो देन यू क्रिएट अ वेल्थ एट ऑल लेवल्स ऑफ मार्केट, राइट? अभी ये सब का सारांश ये है कि अगर हम एक उसका आउटपुट देखें क्या हुआ है, तो समझ लो 1991 से 2022, ओके, करीबन 30 साल की हिस्ट्री में हम देखें सेंसेक्स की कंपाउंडेड रिटर्न करीबन 15%, 14.9% has been the return that Sensex has given on a compounded basis annually. All right, but ये इतने सालों में 23 दिन ऐसे थे, ओके, जहां पे मार्केट की रिटर्न 6 टक्के से ज्यादा थी. मार्केट हैज हिट अ 6. ऑल राइट, there were 98 days where market has hit a 4, where daily returns have been more than 4%, right? बट ये आप ये थोड़े से दिन आप ये मिस कर जाते, ये पूरे 7,000 दिनों में अगर आप थोड़े से 60 दिन मिस कर जाते तो आपका सेंसेक्स का रिटर्न मिस हो जाता. ओके, सेंसेक्स में कुछ रिटर्न ही नहीं बनते इफ यू आर नॉट प्रेजेंट इन द मार्केट इन दोस डेज. सो लेट मी गिव एन एग्जांपल ऑफ दिस. ओके, देखिए अब यहाँ पे अपने हम इन्वेस्टर कम ये जो हम बैठे हैं, हम इन्वेस्टमेंट के साथ साथ हम क्रिकेट एक्सपर्ट्स भी हैं, राइट? क्रिकेट इज वेरी पॉपुलर इन इंडिया, वी आर ऑल एक्सपर्ट्स इन क्रिकेट, राइट? अभी समझ लो आज मैच चल रही है, आरसीबी की मैच चल रही है, ओके. तो हम ये सोचते हैं कि हम बता सकते कि चलो आज आरसीबी 200 रन बनाएगी या आरसीबी 180 रन बनाएगी, राइट? हम ये क्रिकेट एक्सपर्ट अंदाजा तो लगा ही लेते हैं. बट हम इनमें से आधे तो ये भी बता देंगे कि आज कोहली कितना मारेगा या आज उसके फाफ डुप्लेसी कितने मारेगा. ओके, तो ये बता सकते हैं, लेकिन कोई ये बता सकता है कि ये कौन से बॉल पे 6 जाएगा या कौन से बॉल पे 4 जाएगा? आई थिंक नॉट वन विल बी एबल टू टेल कि एग्जैक्टली दिस इज द बॉल वेयर ही विल हिट अ 6 और दिस इज द बॉल ही विल हिट 4. Similarly, it's the case with the market also. You can determine that over a longer period you can make a certain return, but which are those particular balls, which are those particular days where the market is hitting the ball for the 6 or hitting the ball to a 4 is very very difficult to predict. So therefore, stay invested along the period and you will capture those important days in the market. Therefore, what we tell our investors is that the time that you spend in the market, stay invested in the market, is more than timing the market. Okay, so don't try to capture that 6% day or 4% day at the last moment. You just stay in the market and you will capture that, right? Which are the other opportunities that strategies that one can adopt is the SIP strategy, which is one is the simple SIP कि आपने 1,000 रुपया है हर महीने 1,000 रुपया डालते गए. Second strategy is growing SIP, which is in growing के हम आगे जाके हमारी इनकम बढ़ते जाती है तो हम हमारी एसआईपी की वैल्यू भी बढ़ाते जाए कि मतलब आज 1,000 है, कल उसको 1,200, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, हम धीरे धीरे एसआईपी की वैल्यू बढ़ा सकते हैं. दैट इज अदर वे ऑफ डूइंग द एसआईपी, which is the growing SIP. देन देयर इज स्मार्ट एसआईपी. व्हाट इज स्मार्ट एसआईपी? सो स्मार्ट एसआईपी में ये होता है कि जब भी मार्केट की वैल्यूएशन समझ लो कि अट्रैक्टिव हो जाए, तो आपकी एसआईपी की वैल्यू बढ़ा देती है. तो समझ लो आप 2000 की एसआईपी कर रहे हैं, मार्केट की वैल्यूएशन गोज डाउन, it increases the SIP value, which means you are investing more in the market at a lower or an attractive valuation. So that is the other option that one can look at. And basically, everything comes down to asset allocation, like we talked about. If it is, be it a real estate, be it gold, be it bonds. Uh, जैसे हम थाली में देखते हैं कि सिर्फ रोटी खा के ज्यादा मजा नहीं आएगा, राइट? सिर्फ रोटी सब्जी खा के मजा नहीं आएगा. शायद थोड़ा सा दाल चावल भी उसमें होनी चाहिए, शायद थोड़ी सलाद होनी चाहिए, शायद थोड़ा डेजर्ट होना चाहिए उसमें. तो अगर आप पूरी, so look at asset allocation as a complete thali, which will give you not just the required nutrients, but also the you enjoy enjoy your meal. And therefore the asset allocation will also allow you to do a healthy investment as well as enjoy that investment period. One can look at investment also as a retirement solution. आप अभी एसआईपी कर लो, उसको एक्यूमुलेट कर लो, और उसका फल आप बाद में ले सकते हैं थ्रू अ सिस्टमैटिक विड्रॉल प्लान, right? So for example, if one does an SIP of 20,000 rupees for let's say 20 years, and you get a 10% rate of return on that SIP, then you can later on do a maybe SWP at 5, you withdraw 5% each month. Okay, so that is how one can also look at doing this. Managing risk is also important, because we talked about in looking at corrections as opportunity, but how much correction? Sometimes you have to manage that risk also, क्योंकि जब समझ लो स्टॉक 10 रुपए से 2 रुपए हो गया, समझ लो we have seen a correction which is very steep, and if you make 100% or return after that correction, you still end up doing a loss of 60% on this, because 10 रुपए का स्टॉक 2 रुपया हो गया, वहां से 2 से 4 हो गया, फिर भी आप 60% लॉस पे है. लेकिन अगर हमने रिस्क बराबर असेस किया होता और ये 10 का 8 रुपया होता, और 8 से अगर सिर्फ 50% भी रिटर्न दिए हैं, तो भी आपके इनिशियल इन्वेस्टमेंट पे ये 20% की पॉजिटिव रिटर्न है. सो दैट इज हाउ वन मैनेजेस रिस्क ऑल्सो, दैट वन आइडेंटिफाइज हाउ मच इज द डाउन साइड एंड प्रोटेक्ट द इन्वेस्टमेंट दैट वन इज डूइंग. सो ये सब बात की समरी ये है कि यू वन शुड अडॉप्ट अ राइट एसेट एलोकेशन स्ट्रेटेजी. आपकी इन्वेस्टमेंट्स है spread across the asset class. We are not saying that put 100% of your money in equities. No, spread across. Equity should definitely form a larger part of that allocation as compared to the other asset class, definitely. But it won't be 100%. You spread across your investment across asset classes. Do a regular investment. Don't try to capture the market at one go. Spread your investments over the time period. There could be short term pains, but look at the longer term gain that one derives through investing. Equities, you look to buy on dips and do SIPs. Fixed income, you buy longer duration. Gold, a better way to invest is through ETFs rather than buying physical. Real estate, since these are micro markets, consult the experts in this, right? Uh, just an one feedback is okay, market इतने तो चल गए, लेकिन हमने कैप्चर नहीं किया. लेकिन आगे क्या स्कोप लगता है? ओके, अगर अगर हमने 91 से अगर 2021 तक मार्केट देखें, ओके, ये 30 साल में इंडिया की जीडीपी 275 बिलियन डॉलर से करीबन $2.5 ट्रिलियन तक बढ़ गई है. इसमें मार्केट कैप जो था ये आज के दिन में करीबन $3 ट्रिलियन की मार्केट कैप हुई है. नाउ इफ जीडीपी इज अगेन गोइंग टू ग्रो फ्रॉम $2.6 billion to $4.2 trillion, just imagine what is the market cap creation that India can create. In fact, we are at $4 trillion, it's not a full stop, right? Because there are certain predictions that some of the experts have called out that India can even be $10 trillion. We don't know what time frame, but that is where the opportunities are present in the market. Now, whether one should invest on their own, or whether one should take an help of experts. See, if one has the kind of dedication to study the stocks that you are investing in, study the financials, study their annual reports, study the business cycle, study the valuation of each companies. If one has that kind of a dedication to do on their own, uh, one can go and invest on their own. But if not, one can look at mutual funds as an option. Because see, understand one thing, one can, there is a limitation to how much one person can study on each stock. Now, to expect one knows everything about one company and multiple stocks that are present in the market is, probably inhuman. Because if you look at even how we invest, we are sort of a team that will look, divide these responsibilities and their expert domain. So mutual funds, we already do this as a team with more people thinking about how one can make money. So one can use mutual fund as a resource for uh, investing in the market. Uh, one is, the more participation that we see from Indians, it is positive, because right now about 8% are owned by foreign investors. There are 22% held by FIIs. So nearly one third in the market is owned by the foreigners. So the more Indians participate, and either through directly in the market or through mutual fund, I think it is good for the nation. So one should be looking to increase our participation. So that question on, whether one should be looking to invest in the market on own, or whether one needs to uh, take an expert opinion, right? So what all one needs to cover in terms of टू अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द कंपनी, क्या क्या करना आपको, वो स्टॉक का परफॉर्मेंस पता होना चाहिए, अपॉर्चुनिटीज क्या है पता होने चाहिए, फाइनेंशियल्स पता होने चाहिए, मैनेजमेंट पता होनी चाहिए, कंपनी का कल्चर क्या है, रिस्क क्या है, बिजनेस मॉडल क्या है. सो all these things when are being looked at, and once you have a proper understanding of all these factors, that is when one is in a proper position to take a right decision. And therefore, to know from A to Z of a company, but to expect it from one single person will be difficult. So a team which is available to analyze and do this kind of studies, make use of such kind of experts and teams, like a mutual fund or an investment advisor or a portfolio manager. Right? क्योंकि हम लोग ने भी काफी कुछ साइकिल्स देखे हैं, and we whether we are receiving opportunity, or whether we are avoiding the risk. अगर बीमर जैसे बाउंसर आ रहा है, whether one should be looking to avoid, डॉकर आ रहा है, वी शुड लुकिंग टू प्रोटेक्ट, अगर हाफ वॉली आ रही है, हाउ डू वी कैपिटलाइज ऑन दैट अपॉर्चुनिटी. आई थिंक दोज आर समथिंग व्हाट द कोच विल टेल यू, राइट? बिकॉज इफ यू आर ट्राइंग टू हिट अ bouncer, you are the chances that you will get out. If you just protect the ball on a half volley, you have lost out on an opportunity, right? So the coach will tell you which balls are to be hit, which balls are to be defended. And that is what even the investment advisors do to you. They will tell you, which are the times when one should be looking to capitalize on the market, which are the times when one should be protecting their investment. So that this
Yes.
is where the role of an financial advisor like a Bajaj will come into play. So, so in summary, I'll say कि ये गांधी जी के तीन बंदर जो हम बोलते, बुरा मत सुनो, बुरा मत देखो, बुरा मत बोलो, उसको इसी मार्केट के में भी हम यही सेम प्रिंसिपल लगाए कि डेली का सेंसेक्स नहीं देखना है, लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट के बारे में सोचे, ज्यादा हाइप के बारे से आप डिस्टर्ब ना हो जाए, रेगुलर इन्वेस्टमेंट चालू रख के, टिप्स पे ज्यादा भरोसा नहीं रखिए, एसेट एलोकेशन इज समथिंग वन कैन लुक एट. And just a one concluding point that I'll say, that it's not just wealth that matters. There are many other things also to look at. So these are also your valuable asset, your family, your health, your friends, and one should enjoy your wealth that you create with all these other things that matter in daily life. So I'll think I'll stop here with the presentation.
I would just like to summarize uh, the session. It was a wonderful session in which Mandar sir actually walked us through, you know, uh, the key principles of how to invest. He rightly showed and displayed that building wealth can be possible through participating in equities. If you want to build your net worth, you have to invest in equities. The key message was that risk gets mitigated if you invest over a long time in equities. Don't be a trader if you are not you have not participated in all the market cycles and you are not become an expert. Rather than become an investor, keep investing in value driven companies, and be prudent and look out for opportunities which can be there for you to invest. Equities are risky, but buy good companies and give them some time so that you can create wealth out of them. Time time in the market is more important than timing the market. He also explained how SIPs can be used as a tool to remain invested and be keep investing in regular intervals, and so that you're disciplined and you can achieve your financial goals. Secondly, he showed us how asset allocation can be helpful to spread across all the asset classes. Also, when you're doing SIPs, you should tag them to a goal like retirement or a vacation or any goal that you have, so that you are disciplined and you are regularly investing. And to sum it all, if you're not an expert and if you do not have the time and if you do not have all the knowledge or expertise to evaluate companies, mutual funds becomes an ideal option for you to invest in equities and the market. And in the end, if you follow all the principles which was shared today, you can definitely participate in the roller coaster ride of equities and enjoy it to the fullest and create wealth for yourself and also for your family members. uh, Thank you so much, Mandar sir. It was a wonderful session. If you have anything to say adding on to your session, it will be nice.
Right. So Rohan, I'll only say that when we talk about wealth creation, sometimes uh, uh, one also looks at it from a negative point of view, where one looks at whether one is actually being greedy. So it is not a matter of greed. Okay, it is actually a necessity, because the kind of increase in the expenses that one is looking at. For example, just look at the education cost, right? What my father would have spent on education would be fraction of what I would have spent. What I spent on education will be a fraction of what I would have to spend for my kids, right? So those are kind of multiple increase in expenses, or medical expense, education expense, house of properties. How do we create an ammunition to cover those expenses? That is something what is important. So just one shouldn't look at wealth creation from the greed point of view. It is actually a necessity, and that is where
Yes.
one should be looking at investment as a necessary action rather than anything optional.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mandar sir. Uh, on behalf of Bajaj Finance, I would like to thank all our listeners. Thank you for joining us and also for listening to this session. If you have any doubts, any queries, kindly put your comments over below in the comment section. We would get back to you with all the answers with as soon as possible. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.